Aloha. Welcome to the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. We're so glad to have you here. Et como mai. Now here's our podcast host and award-winning author, Michelle.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. If you're joining us here for the very first time, welcome. And like we say here in Hawaii, e como mai. I am truly honored you're here. And my name is Michelle A G Ebalaroza-Kawano. I'm a speaker, author, creative coach, and this podcast is a space for real stories, meaningful conversations, and a faith-filled transformation. Sorry for the cold. It's unexpected, but like I said, this is real life. But here on the Walking in Aloha, aloha is not just a word. It's a way of life. I was born and raised here on Hawaii, and everyone knows the word aloha. But for me, it stands for affirmations and actions, leadership and love, overcoming obstacles, health and healing, and acute awareness. These 5 pillars help us to walk boldly in our God-given potential and live with purpose, tension, and alignment. So today we are here with my very special guest, TJ Shimeld. I'm going to say that wrong. Did I just say that wrong?
It is Shimeld.
Shimeld. Okay, Shimeld, thank you for correcting me. He's an author, speaker, certified master pro coach, and founder of the Quantum Magicians movement. Before we step into our Aloha framework questions, I want to give TJ the space to share a bit about his journey and the calling God has placed on his life. TJ, thank you so much for being here on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. Please take a moment and introduce yourself and share what you'd like our listeners to know about.
Sure. Well, thank you, Michelle. I'm excited to be here and chat with you again. So my journey, as you mentioned, I am an author. I have been an entrepreneur for most of my life. Since I was 11 years old, I was doing professional magic shows, stage magic, and doing birthday parties and eventually amusement parks and big stage productions and all sorts of things. And that has really been the string that has connected most of my life. It's magic on from those very beginning stages to now founding the Quantum Magicians movement, where I teach people how to become the magician of their own lives and really taking on that responsibility, as you mentioned, of our God-given talents to very much help people sort of unlearn where society has packed on top of things and sort of unlearning and rediscovering who we truly authentically are and how to build a life and build a business around that.
Wow, that is so good. Thank you so much for sharing that. So before we started, I sent TJ a list of questions, and it's in the ALOHA Always Framework, and that is the one thing that ties all of my guests together. And I just love seeing how everyone walks in aloha in their very own way all over the globe. I've spoke to people like in so many different countries now: Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Africa, all over. And here in the United States also, where I am. And you are in Spain, right?
I'm
So
saying now, yes.
yeah. So it is amazing on how this is. But so let's go into the questions. Is that all right with you?
That'll be great. Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so the first A in Aloha is affirmations and actions. Sorry, like I said, I have a cold, I have a cough.
This is real life
It'll
here.
it'll be like this.
Our authentic selves and
Yes, that's just the way it
sickness
is,
and
because
everything else.
it is the best to be authentic. With AI and everything in the world nowadays, you know, I mean, you never know. One day they'll be able to fake a cough. I don't know. But anyway, so in this current season, what is the truth that God has been affirming in your life?
Well, for me, of late, and you mentioned I am in Madrid. I did grow up in the United States. I lived in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, then moved south to North Carolina. And a year and a half ago, made the big jump to Madrid, Spain, where I live now. For me, of late, it's felt like a relearning. We've been talking a lot about finding my authentic self. And there was a touch of that moving from the north in the United States to the south. There was certainly a bit of a culture shock. I went to school for clinical psychology to Tufts University in Massachusetts. And, life was very busy, just kind of north of Boston. So, that's Boston traffic, and I'm very fortunate. I've learned how to drive in Boston traffic. And so if I can do that, I can drive anywhere. And moving from the north to the south, and moved with my young family at the time. My daughter Opal was just shy of her first birthday. And I remember when we first were driving into North Carolina and driving into this little town we chose, Morganton, North Carolina, in the western part of the state. And we came to a red light before entering town. And I remember stopping and just admiring, like the mountain views and everything. And then I noticed this anxiety building, that this red light was staying red. It was not changing to green. And it was building this anxiety for me. And as I realized that it was an opportunity to slow down. And that first day, we drove into town and parked downtown. And I was just amazed that there was no meters to collect coins. And we could park for free. And there was literally a policeman when we parked and got out. I think my wife and I at the time were just so wide-eyed and amazed, and like people are saying hi to us and waving to us. We just looked terrified that a policeman stopped and asked, "Oh, is everything okay? Are you okay?" And we're like, yeah, we're just moving into the town, just getting our feet wet. But I think it was that ability, or giving myself permission to slow down. And that move from now last year and a half, going from North Carolina, the big move overseas to Spain. We were talking about this a little bit before, of just the culture here, that, you sit down going out to eat 2 p.m. starting for lunch, and 8 p.m. for dinner time. But it's not about finishing your meal and then getting on to the next thing. It's truly enjoying the food, enjoying the company. The meal will last an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Is not unheard of. You go into a restaurant here and you're not being rushed out. The waiter isn't coming over trying to give you, the receipt there to kind of hurry you along. And it's been really, for me, is that aspect of slowing down. And that's really been my go-to mantra of everything, and giving myself permission just to relax and just to be. I was always one that was always moving, always needing to feel productive. And the definition of productive was that, I needed to be reading books. But even I remember in fifth grade, the summer of fifth grade, instead of being like a kid and enjoying, I thought, well, I needed to read. And I was reading like Moby Dick and Tom Sawyer and like these classics, because they were classics, because that's, what you're supposed to do. And, I had my business, and I thought, well, I was playing soccer, I was playing baseball, I was always busy. And it led to several moments in my life of getting to that point where I ended up quitting everything. It just got so overwhelming as a kid. I remember, I had Cub Scouts and soccer and baseball and all of that, all these after school things, activities. And it's like, I did that throughout most of my life, that I had to be busy from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And these past couple of years has really been seeing how that's led to burnout
Mhm.
and really learning how to adjust and relax into my world now and working with my nervous system. And instead of pushing through to get stuff done, realizing that relaxing is part of becoming my authentic self. That rest helps me be more productive, and I can be more productive in 4 hours. I don't need to work 12, you know, hours a day. I can get stuff done if I'm really relaxing in the moment and
Good.
just aligning with what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah, that is so good. I love that you said aligning because that is my word for the year is alignment because sometimes we get so busy, for me anyway, I hear the way you talk about like how life is where you get to slow down and I'm like, that sounds so good. It sounds so good because I actually had a scare because they found that I had some strokes, not that it showed up anywhere else. I had a headache and I asked them to check my brain. So after going back and forth with the doctor, I finally was able to get an MRI and they found that I had three older strokes and one that is a darker bleed. And it's like you never would have known unless going in and actually looking at my brain.
Yeah.
Pushing ourselves when we think we're just being productive, we may not know what we're actually doing to our bodies. So good on the rest part and so good on the actually saying, like it's part of it all. The rest is part of it.
Definitely. When, especially too, when I was in college, not only busy with my college work, but I was also writing a book, my first book. It's called Walter B. Gibson and the Shadow. It's about the old time radio show, Who Knows What Evil Lurks in the Hearts of Men and the Shadow Knows. Walter Gibson was the creator of the Shadow. He was a magician as well, and he happened to be the uncle of my magic instructor when I was a kid. And I was writing this book while I'm doing my college studies. And I used to suffer a lot from migraines. I would get these just really debilitating migraines, this aura where I just would go blind. I couldn't see. And I realized through the years it was my body forcing me to stop because I wouldn't take the time to relax that my body would force. And then, through the years, as I realized that, I found, at my worst, I was getting, 2 or 3 migraines a month. And now it might be, I get maybe one a year.
Wow.
And I think the really recognizing it and the sort of aha moment, which made me think of it when you said the MRI, when I was in college, the doctor sent me saying, "Let's just take a look at the MRI." And as I was going through it all and all that, and sort of knowing almost intuitively that there's nothing there. This is just me being me. Like I've just gotta stop. And that was sort of that aha moment, realizing that, I've got to slow down. I've got to, there's something more. And right after that, I actually started a internship at Harvard University's Mind Body Medical Institute
Hmm.
and was learning about the mind body connection. And the person who started the mind body connection, Dr. Herbert Benson, talked about the relaxation response, which is actually he discovered it or found out about it in the same laboratory as where they discovered the fight and flight response. And he
Okay.
discovered that you can't be in relaxation at the same time you're in fight and flight because your nervous system, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
So when you're in that mode of fight and flight, and that's what I was. If I'm always busy and always doing and always like turning out, I wasn't giving my nervous system a chance to relax. And so that's when that leads, or,
Yeah.
you know, worse, sometimes our bodies just have to yell at us,
Yeah.
if we're not listening,
Not paying
if we
attention.
don't listen one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, like they say, right? Your body keeps the score. So what are the daily actions or discipline that helps you to stay aligned with the truth of what we've been talking about, the rest, the
Yeah.
relaxation,
So
but
starting, I have been since then with the Mind Body Medical Institute when I was in my 20s. Meditation has
mm,
been a great part of my life, and things go by different names. I remember with the relaxation response, they said you can call it prayer, call it meditation, call it visualization, whatever word you want to use. Actions on the body and the end results are the same. And I had dabbled with it on and off for years and years and years. And actually, it was this past year, April 1st, I really started dedicating time to sit every morning. I sit at least for 30 minutes, if not an hour. And I had discovered the work of, if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza et al. So discovering his work had helped out a lot, and reading his books. And I got to the point of, after I was done his book, and I one of his books, Becoming Supernatural. And I got to the point where I was like, well, what's next? I'm doing the meditation, and how can I continue that moment, that feeling I get after sitting in the morning throughout my day. And one of the things I came up with, and I teach in my coaching and people with the quantum magicians, I call it velocity voiding. And my thinking around it was that I wanted something as urgent in my life of like that I wouldn't forget. I wanted to do something throughout the day. So I have an alarm set on my phone for every hour. Actually, it's an hour and 11 minutes, 111. I have found a very quiet, calming alarm that will go off. And when that does, I treat it as if it's a urge, like a bodily urge of needing to like use the bathroom and to go to the bathroom. So if I don't have a car in Spain, I use public transportation and all, but I tell people I work with, if you're in the car and that goes off, it's like you have to pee. So you find the next exit, you get someplace safe, someplace where you can just take a moment. And I will say, if I'm with a group of people, I'll actually excuse myself that I need to use the bathroom, go to the bathroom, into the bathroom, and I will stand or sit, close my eyes. And I have had this little saying since I was in my 20s that I came across somewhere in one of my readings that I absolutely loved. And I say, nothing, absolutely nothing can separate me from God's healing love. And I will do 10 deep breaths, kind of a short inhale and then a longer exhale, and taking that moment, and it's just a minute, couple minutes. Sometimes I do a little bit longer things, but every hour I reconnect. And at the end, I ask myself, what's my next aligned action? And since I've been doing that, it has helped out a lot of being in those moments where I am desperately trying to get something done, or the fear, the adrenaline, the fight and flight response is there, and I'm working, I'm having heart, and then my alarm goes off, and it's in that moment the reminder, okay, I need to treat this now as if it's a bathroom break. No matter, I might finish the email I'm writing or whatever it is, and then I take a moment and just sit with my eyes closed, breath, go through that. And it has been a real lifesaver at times, because I realized sometimes the thing I was doing, I was not in alignment with my authentic self. I was acting from fear. I was trying to get something done or putting all this pressure on myself to do something that really didn't necessitate that amount of energy. And that connection, that velocity voiding, just quickly going into the void, going, just with that connection, and then coming back to whatever I have to do, coming back as more my authentic self and more aligned, more relaxed, that, then our frontal cortex opens. We're able to see different things, to be able to do things instead of being so focused in fear and trying to get this little thing done. It's like it takes a moment and everything just opens up, and I'm able to be there as more authentically me.
So good. So good. For me, like when I'm able to do that, like how you said, like instead of focusing, open yourself up. I think that's when God is able to put more in, because we're not so closed up, right? We're able to receive more if we just open up ourselves to that acceptance, that alignment.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you for sharing that. So, in the L for leadership and love, you work closely with leaders and creatives. How has God shaped your view of leadership through love?
One of the things, as I said, which has always been interesting, that being a magician and magic has been that thread throughout my entire life. And what got me interested in magic, when I was 7 years old, I saw this performance in Beverly, Massachusetts. It was Marco the Magi's production of Le Grand David and his own spectacular magic company. Long name, doesn't quite fit on a bumper sticker, but it's this big, spectacular show. They went for 35 years. That was what got me interested in magic. And that was my impossible dream, is to be part of that magic company, which I did when I was 19. And Marco the Magi was actually Cesario Pelaez. He was a psychologist. He actually worked with Abraham Maslow as his teaching assistant, and Abraham Maslow, humanistic psychology, hierarchy of needs, self-actualization, all of that comes from Abraham Maslow. And what I learned being at the Magic Company for almost 10 years, that it was run the way Abraham Maslow had come out with a book. It was called like Psychian Psychology or something, but it was redeveloped with a better name of Maslow on Business. And he had studied and applied his humanistic psychology eye on his brother's business. And that's how the theater was run. The Le Grand David owned two old-time theaters in Beverly, Massachusetts, 800-seat theaters. One was from 1926, the other from 1912. And I worked there as I was at college and did the magic shows on the weekend. And I learned a different style of management, a different style of leadership from Cesario that we know of the it's either the stick or the carrot, right? You're either punishing people to move forward or dangling that carrot in front that they'll go after it. And we were made to feel that that theater was our theater. And there was, at the time when I was there was 30 of us on stage, big spectacular show and costumes and all this stuff. But, two antique theaters take a lot of care and effort, and we would handle a lot of the maintenance ourselves. But I felt that theater was mine. So we would show movies during the week and then have the magic shows on the weekend. And so I would come, we would dress in a tuxedo to do the movies, and ushering the movies. And when I saw a tissue on the floor, I would pick it up and throw it out.
Mhm.
Not because I was paid to, or not because I was yelled at if I didn't, but because this was my
It
theater.
was
This is
yours.
my
Yeah.
house. I want to keep it nice. I wanted to paint things when we see stuff or scraping gum off the sidewalk or all of these things. We would do that. We were made to feel that this is our home.
Mhm.
And what a different way to manage people. It wasn't about some of us, I was in college, a poor college student, so I did get a paycheck from there, but 30 people there, I think there was 2 or 3 that were full-time employees and everybody else just came out of love. And so, just imagine what you can do in a business when you're coming from love, and that these are people that have families, that have needs, and what a different aspect that is of not about like how much money we can make, but can we get together and we would have fun together. We celebrate our birthdays together, and so it became this family, that this was our home, this is our house, and we come together and we have fun together having this magic show on the weekend. We get to invite all these people to come into our house and enjoy this with us. And, it was just a very different approach to life. And so that's how I see, a lot of what I do is wanting to bring that aspect of love, of not, I want to work with people that want to work with me, that
Yeah.
it's not about, well, I'm paying you a paycheck, so you got to do this, that, and the other thing. It's like, no, if you have a need or this or that, it's amazing when you treat people, that was Maslow's mind blowing idea. If you treat people like people, they're going to work, because they just love doing what they're doing.
Yeah, that is so good because that is you have a different outlook, right? Your mindset is different. You're not like there just because it's a job or you're not there, but you're there because it's a part of you now. It's your home, like you said. It's family. Like here in Hawaii, we say ohana. You treat everyone like family. So that is so good. I love that. There's things like we learn throughout the course of our life and everything like that that changes things. Is something that you had to unlearn in order to lead from that authenticity rather than from performance?
My big thing was always about control.
Mm,
And I think that it's still stuff I struggle with, of realizing that I can't do it all. And
right.
that me of wanting to be busy all the time and all of that. And, a friend of mine once said to me, it was in my 20s or something, and I think I was trying to learn how to build a website for my my magic show or something. And I'm not good at that. It was taking forever and all that. And he says, in life, you need to figure out what you're good at, and you do that. And the stuff you're not good at, that's where you find other people that you hire someone to do that. At the time I was, he grew up very well off with the father who owned all these gas stations and all that. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can do that. You've got the money. You know, poor kid out of college here. I need to, figure out how to do this myself and save money. But the idea that realizing that, the amount of time, and yes, I did do my own website eventually, but it took me hours and hours and hours and hours when I could have spent a little bit of money and hire someone that knew what they were doing. They could probably have it done within an hour. And,
Right.
I went through all the time, the effort, the pain, all of that. So really it's part of that relaxation and that letting go, and that I'm not in control. There is that higher power. There's God. There's, whatever
Mhm.
word you want to give it, that I need to relax more, as we say, be able to listen to that. Because if I'm trying to control every little thing, I'm just not available for what's
Yeah,
trying to come through.
that's so true. You're not there to receive it because you're too busy with everything else. So that is so good. O in Aloha is overcoming obstacles. So every calling comes with resistance. And a lot of times when we're into something new, important, we're doing a big thing. I sometimes think that obstacles come more for some reason. But what obstacles tried hardest to redirect or diminish your purpose?
So when I told you moving down to North Carolina, within a few months of moving there, I was in a rather horrible, tragic car accident. Driving home, my parents followed the grandchild down, so they ended up moving from the north down to the south too, in North Carolina. And we were driving back from their house at night, and I was driving. There was a car. It had gotten dark, coming over the crest of a hill, and I just saw these two headlights coming at us. In a no passing zone, there was a car passing everyone in our lane, and I had to kind of swerve to avoid the head-on collision. And as I swerved back onto the road, I overcorrected, went over the line, got hit by the oncoming traffic. My head went through the side glass. I shattered bones in my left hand, broke my clavicle. I was kind of blind for a little while in my eye with the airbag going off and all the dust and debris there. And we had just moved to the South to start our life as a new family. And now all of a sudden, I couldn't work. I had been at that time was working in a pharmacy. I wasn't able to work. I had started booking magic shows and stuff, and I had to cancel all the shows. And it was a moment where all the good things I felt is a failure, as I couldn't hold my child. I couldn't pick her up anymore. I couldn't change her diaper. Well, that was one of the good things, that I couldn't change her diaper. But we had this whole adjustment. My wife wasn't working, and so I felt a failure as a father because I couldn't work. I couldn't help with the child. I couldn't, because of the clavicle break. It healed kind of on top of each other. So I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes at a time. I couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes. I couldn't lay down for more than 10 minutes. So it was just very uncomfortable. And having surgery on my hand, I was never supposed to be able to move this hand again, thankfully. As you see, it's back.
Yeah, so good.
But that was a really low point in life, through no fault of my own, that this happened. And because it was sort of the car that caused this fled. So in North Carolina, our insurance didn't pay for anything. Uh,
Really?
ended up, we were great medical debt and everything else that piled onto it. And I was at the point of giving up. I thought, how easy it would be that my life changed, how easy it would be for me to just get in the car and drive off the road and end it all. And in that moment, I thought of a friend of mine, a magician. His name's Ricky Boone. He owned a magic shop in Asheville, North Carolina. He is, or well, he has passed now, but he was in a wheelchair, and he had accomplished all of these things in the magic world, he was the first in his family to go to college. He had done all of this in a wheelchair, and I was worried about a hand.
Yeah.
And with that, I started painting this black side table, 10 minutes at a time. I was painting. I started writing with one finger, typing a book for young magicians to teach them magic. And coming out of all of that, there was the realization of talking to Ricky. That horrible moment led to one of the greatest moments of my life. Ricky asked me if I would be willing to write a book about his life. And I did. That's him right there. It's the 4-foot giant and the vanishing wheelchair.
Good.
And he told me, he said, TJ, you're not going to make any money on this book. And I said, Ricky, you lived a great life. Like, people will want to read your story. It's very inspirational. And he says, no, people will buy the book. He says, you are not going to make any money. He says, what I want to do is use this to start a nonprofit to raise money for people with disabilities and help give them a voice. And Ricky always had magic. And I realized in that that I had writing is what brought me back from the brink there, so to speak, that having a meaning, having a purpose in life. And so we started the nonprofit called The Vanishing Wheelchair, and helping people with disabilities find their passion in life through teaching skills in the arts. So we teach magic and juggling and writing, and we had wheelchair dancing at one point in time as well. And the thing that almost stopped me was the thing I needed to go through in order to help others,
Nice.
and the meaning that gave my life, and realizing that that's what I wanted to give to others, is a meaning in their life. And
It's
the
so
vanishing
good.
wheelchair was born.
Awesome. That actually answers the next question that I was going to ask, because that is, how did that experience deepen your faith and refine your voice? But that was through the writing of the book and everything like that, like how you said.
Yes.
So that is incredible. I love it. And you said now, what is his name? Ricky
Yeah. Ricky
Boom?
Boone.
Ricky Boom. And he's now passed. So,
Yes, he has had, it's called Morgani's syndrome. You
mhm.
can kind of see in the picture there of him that he was only 4 feet tall,
Uh-huh.
very kind of large hands. It's like he had bones growing in places where there shouldn't be, and missing bones in other places. So it made walking difficult for him. It made different things difficult. But he was never supposed to live past, just being
Yeah.
born. But they said if he did survive, he should have never lived past the age of 4.
Wow.
And he was 61 when he passed. It was one of those things. He had survived. I mean, he had lit his head on fire during a magic show. He had brain surgery after that. He had a heart attack on stage, finished the magic show and survived that.
My
They
goodness.
said he was never supposed to live through that. And he just seemed one of those people that he would outlive us all.
Uh-huh.
And so just having him in my life and seeing that he would never quit. When something happened, he was one of asking himself, of realizing the reality of the situation, and then asking himself, now what?
Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah.
And not oh, poor me, this has happened. It was always, okay, well, this is where we are, so now what?
Wow.
And that he had every right to be depressed or upset or anxious or whatever, but
And
never.
it's on Amazon and everything?
And yes, you can find that on
Yeah.
Amazon, the 4-foot giant, or at
Nice. I have to get it.
vanishingwheelchair.org. It's of all the books I've written, that's the one I'm most proud of. That he
Yeah.
was an inspirational person, still inspires me every day.
Yeah, because like for me, my life has been where I was always injured, always something wrong, always like breaking bones, all kinds of stuff that we'll leave that for another day. But even now, as I'm getting older, things come up. And I feel like how you were saying with Ricky, how you're like, okay, whatever, what else? What's next? And so that's the same kind of attitude that I have, because there's been so many things, and I just keep saying, I am not going to let my disabilities disable me from the calling that God has on my life. Like all these things happen, and like how you said, he set his head on fire. He had this heart attack, and yet he finished the show. It's like those kind of things. You're like, okay, what else? And it's just that resilience in someone. I'm just so always intrigued, because sometimes when I feel like I keep going and people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, God, that's what I can say.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, because I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. I doubt it, every bit. But
Well, and that was really, Ricky, believed in a higher power that he called God as well, and that he would always say, you know, it was always a question in that personal conversation with God of what, when he ended up being in towards the end of his life, that he had been in sort of a bit of a car accident, and sort of it crushed his windpipe and all of that. And after that, he wasn't able to do some things that he used to be able to do. And, instead of being upset, it was that question. It's like, God, why are you putting me through this? What's the purpose? And he realized that he grew up disabled. And the one thing he always said is that he always felt bad for people who became disabled, because they knew what it was like to be abled. And he said he realized that, God had given this to him to actually have that experience of what it's like to become disabled. And so it was always like he was always open to those lessons and those things there, instead of asking the why me or poor me or all of that. He knew there was a reason behind it, and
yeah,
that's
that is
just what
so
kept him
good.
going.
So good. So good. I know I was there feeling that same way after I learned the things about my brain. I was like, Lord, there's 6 kids in my family. Why me? Right? Why do I always have to get all this stuff happening, And I'm like, well, what if it's the way that I can handle it, and how I am able to show people that through all of that, there's still hope. What if I'm the one? And so if that is what it is, then so be it. Let it be
Yeah.
me. And so that's so good. But that's perfect, because we're in health and healing, the H in Aloha, and healing is ongoing. What has healing looked like for you mentally, emotionally, or spiritually? I was going to say and spiritually, because I believe that it all goes together. I don't think you can even separate stuff sometimes,
Yeah. Well, I agree. For me, the car accident had led to a whole other, 2 years. Then we years and years later, we ended up having to file bankruptcy. I was at that time divorcing with my wife. I was at a standstill in my job. I had a job working in a retail pharmacy that was literally supposed to be just a passing job. And then I ended up there 20 years later. I'm still there. And it came to another head of, I was experiencing severe depression and upset and was seeing a therapist. And I think one of the things she said to me, which is so odd because I worked in a pharmacy, so I knew there's medicine for depression and I would never take anything. And she kind of had opened my eyes of saying, you need to give yourself permission to ask for help. And maybe that help now is medicine for you. And I did start taking depression medicine. I was on 2 different depression medicines. I am happy to report now that since moving to Spain, and I think really taking this past year of really focusing on that spirituality side of myself, becoming more of my authentic self, I was able to completely get off of one of my depression medicines. And just a week ago, I filled my very last prescription of my medicine. I've been weaning down on the second one. And so that aspect of slowing down, of taking walks. I know you said you watch my reels on Facebook there and stuff, that I'm always walking around Spain. And I think really, I'm not saying people have to move across the world to do this, but to truly appreciate and be thankful in the moment. Part of my velocity voiding there too is I will sit and be just thanking God for the things I do have in my life and reminding myself of that. And I believe it was, Joe Dispenza saying that, the best best aspect of receivership is to be thankful, and to be thankful ahead of time for our future self that's coming, and all the good things that have yet to be, and being in that slowness and that thankfulness, that gratitude. And then you're open to all the good things that are yet to come.
Yeah, so
Truly
good.
just slowing down and enjoying life and getting outside, enjoying the sun, enjoying, you don't have to walk around seeing the great architecture of Madrid, but just the noticing of life around us is just,
That's one thing I do notice though when I travel the world is the architecture. It's beautiful.
yeah.
I love it. I was in Portugal and it took us a bit because I had to stop because they have these paintings on their walls outside of their buildings. And I'm like, this is so amazing. Everything is so nice. I was like, love it. My husband's like, can we go now?
You
I'm
can
like, I'll
only
catch up
smell
with
so many roses on the way.
But yeah, it is. It's amazing. But like you said, we don't have to move across the world to, do what you do. Go outside, take the time to go outside. And I think people forget or realize that they can find beauty and that serenity right where you are if you're looking for it.
Yes.
If you're not looking, it's going to pass you by, but you have to be aware enough, right, to look. And so, with all that you're doing, I know everything in Spain and all that, and you're coaching, right? You're coaching and all of that. So, how do you protect your energy and your heart while still serving at such a high level?
It is certainly a balance, and really taking the time there's one of the things I teach in my coaching, there's a wonderful book I recommend that's called Drive, Drive, by Woody Woodward. And it's Drive was to discover your motivation, that there's, 5 different types of motivation. Drive is an acronym:
Okay.
director, relator, intellectual, validator, and executive. And each drive has there's your primary drive and your secondary drive. And the secondary drive, you think of your primary drive is sort of like the car and your motivation of what gets you to where you're going. The secondary drive is the fuel that you put into the car. And so when you know your drive type, that first and secondary, you know what your fuel is. And I go over my coaching business with my clients this, because when you know what your fuel is, you can then fuel up.
Yeah.
And, for me, drive does change, with drama and trauma, but my one of the basic aspects of my fuel is walking and just being outside. And I know I will do that every day here. I mean, I have no car, so, we have to walk to the grocery store and different things. But I find when I'm in that mindset and taking time to get out and to walk, and that fuels me.
Oh,
And realizing there is that balance, as we talked about in the beginning, that, resting is being productive. And so having that concept of what my drive is, it's something we all sort of grow up with and are finding the different things that do soothe us and taking time to do that. Painting is another one of my things. And I have my corner set up here in my apartment in Madrid. And so I'll do my painting. Like, that was my what I said during my car accident. This is a shelf from the table. Table has since broke, but this all started out black and sitting there and painting. So having that balance is really crucial. And that's why, too, I started that whole concept of velocity voiding and setting my alarm for every hour, because I will get so ingrained and so in depth if I'm writing something or doing something, and I'll forget to eat. I'll forget to, but now this alarm is every hour, and I will sit and go through my meditation, my prayer. And when asking that question, well, what's my next aligned step? And I'm much more aware now that, I'm really tired. I should probably wrap up and go to bed, And without that, I would just push through and push through and
I'm
push
going.
through. But with that alarm, it's just this wonderful reminder to really
So
pay
good.
attention to my body. What's my body? I'm hungry. When's the last time I ate? So
Right.
taking that time to just pay attention to the body and to see what need to be met in that
Yeah,
moment.
that is so good because that just leads into the next A. The last A in Aloha is acute awareness because that is the whole thing. Like, there's so many times when we get so busy and it's been how many hours and you didn't realize that you didn't even eat anything all day yet. Or, you know what? I don't think I'm hungry. Why am I making me food? I think I'm really tired. Those kind of
Yep.
things, right? So just being that aware of your own self and like talking about balance, knowing when you're pushing, when you should be resting, because like you said, that rest is being productive, and I actually had to remind myself of that a lot of times because whenever I was resting or not doing anything, I was feeling unproductive. Like I should be doing something. Well, you are, you just went 4 hours straight. Give yourself a moment, right? Those kind of things.
Yes.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's completely okay. So, when did you become aware that your story, including the hard parts, was meant to help other people?
Well, When starting the Vanishing wheelchair, one of the things that was so helpful, Ricky's magic show was basically a motivational speaking show. People said, and he had brought me with him to do some motivational speaking
Mm-hmm.
and sort of learning that side of being on stage, of doing magic with a meaning behind
Nice.
it. And I transitioned that into doing a lot for children. I did a lot of library shows and school shows in the United States, and I would travel around with, they were all inspiring children to read, but I always had that underlying theme of, finding yourself, being your authentic self, making sure you're finding and nurturing your God-given talents. And, that was always the underlying thing. And, then COVID hit and all of that. We were talking a little bit. I was doing uh, after Ricky had passed,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we were working on, I think one of the great things that the last year of his life, he needed more assistance, and I actually got time. I would go up to Asheville, and I would be spend 2 days at the magic shop and helping him, trying to keep his business open. And I would be there Thursday and Friday, and then Thursday night I would spend the night at his house and be able to help him and make his food for him, and you know in different ways. And there was that growing realization that he realized that having a magic shop wasn't the everything he could do. People were coming to him, and he realized he needed to go out to the people. And it became more aware that this might not be getting on an airplane and flying to give speeches and stuff. And so we started working on, well, what can we do with this in mind? How can we get this message out? And it was Richmond Din out of Australia. I was doing a um the creator of the Tiny Challenge, and these 5-day kind of challenges. And I was doing a 5-day challenge with him, and he teaches coaches. And
Yeah.
he had a line that he said that really struck me, and that's what just started everything, was that, you have $1 million worth of knowledge in your brain. And how selfish it is if you keep that to yourself. You are meant to share that with the world, and help the people that are a chapter
Uh,
behind you and help them through. And it really struck me because I realized when I was going through a car accident, when I was going through depression, when I was going through bankruptcy, when I was going through divorce, I wish I had the me now, back then, to help me through it.
exactly. Yeah.
And I realized that's what I want to give to the world. I want the now me to be helping people through. And the realization and the quantum magicians movement there is that I am the magician of my own life. I can create whatever life I dream of. And the more authentically I can be, the closer I become to that reality that I want. And that we're all here for a reason. And that's all I want to do, is just help people find that reason and
Yeah.
help them nurture it and help them develop it.
Yeah. I always say that we were created by the creator to be creatives. And in everything that we do, we create because we're made in his image. And in that sense, what we went through, God can use that too. In his own creative way, he can take all of that and turn it around and help someone else. And that's one thing God told me too when I complained and I was like, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to rehash all the things I went through. And then God said, it's not about you. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it is not about me. Everything I went through, it's not like he puts you through things so that you can be an example to someone else, but he doesn't waste the hurt, right? He doesn't waste the pain that you go through. And so I'm just so grateful that God can use us in that way, because some people think you have to be so far ahead to help someone out. No, you don't. You just have to be a
And
step ahead of them. You just have to be a step ahead in order to help. And don't wait till everything's perfect, because it's not going to be. It's never going to be.
it's never going to be. That's right.
As long as you can be that person to say yes and help someone else out, that is so good and so important. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being open to helping other people. So what would you say to someone, that person who is stuck? They know that they're called for more. They feel it in their heart. They know it's an ache, right? But they feel stuck or hesitant. What would you say to them?
It's in discovering our full potential. I have a firm belief that we have always known it as a child, the things we were drawn to. It was just a natural aspect of our life that we would do things before school age. We would do things out of curiosity, out of love, out of just fun. And that it is really that unlearning and thinking back and asking yourself, well, was that thing that I did as a child? Like I used to love to draw and to color and and when's the last time I colored? And when's the last time, I gave myself permission that I could do something that wasn't productive. Like, I love painting and I don't sell the paintings or anything like that. And, finding and really asking yourself, what are those things? Give yourself permission
Mm,
to go
yeah.
back to did you like going to the beach and picking up the rocks and the shells and seeing what's underneath them and seeing all the little crawlies and stuff around? Or did you love spending time in the woods? Where were those things that you're naturally drawn to? And I believe that's our authentic self, and our ideas of life is kind of peeling away all those layers of, what society says we need to do, what our culture says we need to do, what and getting back to that, because that's God. A
Mhm.
child just is pure essence, and we have something there, and it's finding our way back to that. It's becoming a child again with the intelligence and the knowledge that we've gained through the years, and then to be able to take that and just to take a step forward. And there's all the big ideas and all the things, but it is, like I said, what's my next aligned action? What's that next thing? Is it writing an email? Is going outside for a walk? Is it getting something to drink? What's my next aligned action? Because as a child, we don't have to ask that. It's pure essence. We just do it. We're hungry and we go eat. We're thirsty and we're hurt and we cry, and we're tired. We take a nap. Just to get back to that thinking, what's that next action? Getting quiet. What's that next action?
Yeah. Because I always have to remind myself that I know I'm a creative. I also paint. I also write. So it's when I don't do those things, I feel like there's something amiss, right? You're like, something's missing. Because God intentionally put that in you so that you can be that creative He wanted you to be. But the things that we create really isn't just for ourselves either. We create it for other people. So I think, like when we start feeling like, when I ask myself, what is my next step? What is my next aligned step? And it points towards creation. I know that a lot of times it's because of God and the creator that the creative that he put inside of me. So when people experience your work and hear your story, what do you hope they walk away with believing about God and about themselves?
I think the thread of magic there is really that anything is possible.
Nice.
And I use magic as that metaphor in the vanishing wheelchair, right? Where we're discovering, looking at the ability rather than the disability. It's the magician's misdirection. Look over here while I sneak something over here. And just realizing that anything is possible is
Yeah.
truly it. I mean, like I said, I've met so many people with these disabilities that have every right to give up, and they don't. And so, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do
Nice.
next?
So good. Well, thank you so much for all of this. Thank you for sharing so openly and graciously. Your story, insight, and everything, your service heart is just a powerful reminder that God uses every chapter, everything in our lives for his purpose. And it's not
Yeah.
just for us, but it's truly, like I said, to help others. So before we close, please let our listeners know how they can stay connected with you and how to keep, like, do you have a website, an email, so they can learn more about the work you're doing?
Yeah, all of my social medias are all TJ Shimeld. They're SHIMELD. Very active on Facebook, so you can always send me a message there.
And watch him walk around Spain.
You can watch me walk around Spain. You can see all the little details of Spain.
Yes.
But yeah, Facebook, finding me at TJ Shimeld on Facebook, quantummagicians.com. Even if you're interested in the Vanishing Wheelchair, vanishingwheelchair.org is the nonprofit. So you can find me. I'm around. I'm as you tried pronouncing the name, you will never meet another Shimeld in the world. There were like 5 in the
Shimmer.
United States that were directly related to me. So I can't hide. If you type in Shimeld, TJ Shimeld, I'm there.
That's incredible because that's the same way with my name. If you type in Ebalaroza, everyone will be connected. That's just our family name. There's no one else who's not connected to that name. So amazing. So, TJ, this has been an absolute blessing to have you with us here on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. And I know that we went longer, but it was so good. Usually our podcasts go for about an hour, but this has been so good that I'm like, no, let's just keep going.
Just keep going.
So let's keep
Thank
going
you.
because your wisdom and your compassion and your obedience to, the calling that God has on your life is just amazing. So to everyone listening, remember your voice matters. Your journey matters. And God is still writing your story. It is not over. You may have felt like TJ did in the beginning where he was like, I'm done, right? No, God has so much more to write. Look where he is now. So always there is more. Just keep going, keep trusting, keep believing in that little bit of magic, like how you said, right? It's that little bit of magic right there. So God bless everyone. And thank you so much, TJ, for being here on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. My name is Michelle Ebalaroza-Kawano, TJ Shimeld. I said it correctly
Good. You
this
got
time.
it.
Thank you, everyone. And until next time, aloha and ahui ho.
Thank you for joining us here on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. Before leaving, please hit that subscribe button. God's blessings always and ahui ho.